Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Connections and Directions, our University of Michigan Civil and Environmental Engineering podcast. My name is Michelle Santillan, and I am the CEE Marketing Communications Specialist and host of this series. During our podcasts, we are featuring members of our CEE community and how their work reflects our mission of engineers in service to society. We will be highlighting our strategic directions and our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. CEE's 5 strategic directions are human habitat experience, shaping resource flows, adaptation, automation, and smart infrastructure finance. I'm here today with students in our master's program who are also in our Pelham Scholars program, Justin Avila and Xiao Wen. They are both in civil engineering. Justin is focused on construction engineering, and Xiao is focused on structural engineering. I'd like to welcome you both to our podcast today.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. How do you, as a student, see yourself participating in CEE's strategic directions?
I think that a lot of these initiatives are very beneficial for construction engineering because if anything, I'm currently taking a scheduling class and we're on the topic right now of mitigating resources, because if you have a construction project and you need about 18 people just for one day, that's going to cost a lot of money and it's going to be very difficult to get those resources. So a lot of the resource flow and smart infrastructure, if anything, I'm actually planning on doing research under Dr. Kamat and Manasa next semester dealing with smart infrastructure. And a lot of these initiatives all combined can really improve society.
I think the first thing that comes to mind as a civil engineering student, the 2 topics that I would see most people adapt to are adaptation and shaping human resources. And as a student at CEE, I see a lot of my peers and me joining project teams that cater to our interests, and with the current societal topics on climate change, I could see a lot of the younger generation trying to do the best they can to participate in that topic and that discussion. Joining project teams for a lot of the students, and myself included, really is just an exposure for us to see how we can participate in our society without having major consequences associated with our actions yet. And it's a really fun and exploratory way for us to understand the topic a little bit more. And since adaptation is such an important topic right now regarding everything that's going on in the world, I think we can really do our part as engineers to help shape that conversation the way that the younger generation would want it to go.
So then that leads into the question, how does our mission in CEE of being engineers in service to society resonate with you?
The way that it resonates with me is that it's more as in that since we're engineers, we shouldn't just strive for good, we should strive for great, because a lot of what we do has a massive impact. If we do have a miscalculation on a structural member or something like that, that can have huge consequences. Even as something as small as accidentally getting a larger member can cost a lot of money for our owners. And as far as being, and if our owner is the public, for some sort of public transportation or organization, then we're actually just hurting the society that we're currently in. So for me, being an engineer in service to society is meaning to strive for greatness in what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember taking CEE 402, which is the senior design class. And one of the topics was how to become like a professional engineer. And in it, they explain like the code of ethics, like the honor you abide by when you become a professional engineer. And I think as civil engineers, you have a lot of responsibility in terms of like how you will service your community, your society, and there's a lot to think about financially, and obviously like you're building the buildings, and there's a lot of responsibility on your back, and sometimes it helps to think that you can just take a step back and look over your work and know that you're making quite a big of impact, and just it engineer in service to society kind of to me means you are held accountable for the things that you do, but also it gives you a lot of pride in the work that you do once you actually accomplish it.
How do you see DEI incorporated in our department, not necessarily specific to a certain class or a specific research area, but overall in our department?
So for me, I see DEI, I guess, just like in the civil department all over the place. Like all of like the professors in the construction program actually come from like different backgrounds and have like different places that they come from. In my classes, is really interesting. I'm talking to people. There's a guy who I'm friends with who's from Cairo, one from Lebanon. There's a couple of people, one from Malaysia. There's like people from just all over the world. And for me, I really appreciate and I really like this sort of blending of culture. Because if anything, I actually like culture so much that I actually studied abroad during my sophomore year at my old university. And that's just one way of how diversity is represented. Then there's also the other way, which is more as in personality wise. You have, for example, two of my friends are actually from the military, and they have like their own like unique skill sets and their own backgrounds, and they're from two different branches of the military. Also, there's a couple of people who are like really into art. Me myself, I'm really into programming. There's another friend who's from India, and she's really into fencing. So it's not just like, I guess, as far as like where your location is from, but also there's a lot of DEI as far as like personality types, because everyone is different even if we all come from the same place. So, and I found that really cool inside of the civil engineering department.
For me, DEI really means making sure that every student feels comfortable in the department. So, for example, I looked at the statistics for CEE recently, and I think it was like 40% women. I do want to say that in my 4 years of undergrad in CEE, I've never once felt uncomfortable in the department, and I think that really having so many female colleagues and peers helped me feel that way. I will say there are some improvements to be made to the department. I mean, to every single department. There always are improvements. And I think starting by looking at like incorporating more diverse hires at all levels within the department, whether it's faculty, staff, students, is one way to start. And I've been involved with the CEDI committee before, and I think one of the sectors that we were looking at is making sure that like the CEE international students feel more comfortable within the department also, because they make up quite a big percentage of the department, and some ways that they've started doing ways to make them feel more comfortable is maybe just picking them up from the airport when they first arrive to America, having a ton of resources available online regarding their visa status, and just knowing ways to point them to help if they needed it. And I think that's like really small things that the department could incorporate that would really make a big difference to how the students would be able to feel comfortable.
And why did you choose University of Michigan CEE program. What would you say to prospective students who are considering applying here?
I initially started at the University of Buffalo, and the reason why I picked civil engineering for University of Buffalo is because initially I actually wanted to do psychology when I was in high school. Because I didn't start off in University of Michigan, and I'll get into like why I picked University of Michigan for civil engineering, but for why I picked civil engineering in general as like an actual degree to pursue in, it was because I didn't really know much about engineering, and I wanted to do something that was meaningful while also being able to be outside. Like I didn't want to sit behind a desk all day, and so I picked civil engineering for University of Buffalo. There's actually an interesting story, if we have time, that I can tell about how I was able to even get into the engineering department. But over the years, when I was in my undergrad school, I started to get more and more involved with coding also. And I really want to get involved with construction because I took a construction class and I really liked that class. And I want to pursue this more. And since the construction engineering management was at like the department, like the family that actually invented construction engineering management came from University of Michigan, I thought that'd be very beneficial to my education and just the opportunities to go to University of Michigan. And the other thing that I really liked about University of Michigan was that three of the four professors were using computer science as a way, like something like robotics or just like with like using like some sort of like data sets, using some sort of like programming stuff to improve civil engineering, to improve construction engineering. And because of that, I was really excited, and luckily I was able to get into the University of Michigan, and so that's kind of why I picked the University of Michigan Civil Engineering Department, was because I want to do something that was involved with both computer science and construction engineering, and I felt that University of Michigan has like the blend of both worlds. I mean, I can even go into a little bit of details. Like for example, like Dr. Kamat was just doing a presentation in our class yesterday where it was using virtual reality to improve the ways of how you can see pipes underground. Now, this is extremely important because if you're trying to do site work and trying to excavate the soil, if you hit a power line or like, well, not a power line because it probably wouldn't be underground, but if you hit like some sort of like line or something like that, like now people are either going to get injured because there's now going to be like dirt and like debris inside the water that they're drinking, or it's just going to cause like a whole bunch of problems. And so it's very important to know about this, and by having extra technology and to improve these functions, not only will like just be very beneficial to society. And for me personally, I'd love to be at the forefront of this because I love doing new. That's why I want to do research, is because I want to like look up all this new technology and really come up with innovative ways to do things like this. And I feel that like with my skills in both construction engineering and computer science, that and with the backing from the resources at University of Michigan, that this will be the best way to move forward.
And you were referring to the John L. Tishman and Tishman family when you talked about the family that has established construction management, correct?
Yeah.
So, yes. And Professor Kamat just received an endowed professorship from them. So it's great the way you made that connection. And how about with you?
Um, the reason why I picked civil engineering was because I wanted to see my work like become fruitful. I know there's something about physically seeing your work that gives me a lot of pride, which is why I considered civil engineering. I think when I was little, I wanted to become an architect. I wanted to see my my art being presented to the world in like a very beautiful and meaningful way. As I grew older, I realized that I think I had a little bit of more of a mathematical side to me. So I was like, oh, what's the next best thing? Oh, civil engineering. And I think that's still my goal to this day. I wanted to contribute to a skyline. That is something that's like really, it's something that I've been striving towards. And I also think as a civil engineer, you can make a lot of important decisions regarding sustainability, because constructions and buildings makes up to 40% of the carbon emission in the United States. And I think as a civil engineer, you could choose on projects that are meaningful to you, whether or not it uses materials that you prefer, like such as I think my thing is with wood and timber. You can take on really interesting projects that are meaningful to the community that you're in. So, for example, one of my friends is working on a community hospital right now, which I think is really cool, and it's something that you could be incredibly proud of, and while serving your community, going back to our previous questions. And to prospective students who wants to join the department, specifically to Michigan CEE, I think I think CEE gave me a lot of my really good friends. It's you have the resource of a big public university, but since our department is a little bit smaller than other ones, you get to know your peers. You get to know your classmate very well within your 4 years here. And it kind of builds your a tight knit community who you can depend on while you still get exposure to, world class education, essentially.
And as you said, the ability to leave a lasting legacy, if you will, with the various either buildings or other structures that you contribute toward has to be quite meaningful as well. Do you have one pearl of wisdom from your experience in CEE that you would like to share with a prospective student?
Yes. I will say that don't be afraid to try everything that Michigan engineering are able to offer, even beyond. I think there's a lot of opportunity that students may miss on the daily, that could really help shape your point of view, your opinions. So I would say to just keep looking at newsletters that are sent out by the College of Engineering every single day, see if there's any events that you are interested in, even on a more broader scale, like just studying abroad. Michigan Engineering has a ton of funding. I would say don't let financials to be a limitations, because you are able to essentially explore what you want, and getting to explore different cultures from a different lens, like being there, is really important. And that's actually how I got interested in sustainability, is because I study abroad in Japan, and I see how they took environmental engineering so seriously, and that's something that I want to incorporate back into my future. And I just think trying out different events, different clubs will help you start thinking about what you find valuable in your education, and start narrowing from that point onwards.
Also, whatever you're going to do, definitely put your best foot forward. Now, it might sound a bit intimidating because, like, okay, every single thing I have to do, putting your best foot forward is going to be very difficult. But but it's, but you don't always have to, like, put in like 100% of like your energy, but like just put in like, like 80%, or just try whatever you think you can. Because a lot of times, if you are going to say, okay, if you're going to commit to something, like if you want to join let's just say, or let's say that like you, because we were talking about study abroad earlier, let's say that like you want to study abroad in like the UK, but you're in the UK and you just don't you only just stay with like the people that that you're with from like your actual program. Well, then you're not necessarily like exploring new cultures or anything like that, and you're not really putting in like your best foot forward. So the only other like I guess tip of advice that I would give, that's also pertaining to, because I definitely agree that like you should try as many activities as you can. Um, but one addition to that would also be to do your best with them, especially before you really commit to something. Because if you try your best on it, even if like your best isn't good enough, at least you now know, okay, at least you now can learn from that and know now what worked and what didn't work.
How has being involved in our Pelham Scholars Program influenced your experience here in CEE?
I think my experience as a Pelham Scholar made me feel more connected with the people in the CEE community here at Michigan. I joined my I think sophomore year. It was right after I transferred into engineering from College of Literature, Science, and Arts here at University of Michigan. And at the time when I first joined engineering, I was feeling a little bit lost, and I think I joined the Pelham Scholar Program just to see if this is another venture to make a little bit more connections within the department and also make a little bit of some friends. And I think I got a lot more of that out of it than I've realized. It's a wonderful program where you are matched to a mentor, but also you get to connect with your fellow peers, and it made me feel like I'm part of a community, since there are so many people who are in a similar position as me. And I think it's a really great way for students to connect and build connections. There's also a ton of networking opportunities and workshops available where they help you advance as an engineer, as a person, and making sure that you do well in school. So I'm really grateful for this community, and I truly think that it set me up for success as a CEE student.
At my old university, there wasn't really this big community, this like community of like the Pelham Scholar, where it was a bunch of people from like different backgrounds, and we're all able to have like these workshops. We're actually going to be having a workshop later on today, but like the workshops, we have like our mentors, and it's a really wholesome experience because I never really, I guess, got like a mentor before. A lot of the things that I learned at like my university, I had to, I guess, like a lot of like the industry experience, I talked to a lot of different professors about it, talked to a lot of different people in like industry, and having this sort of connection, especially in University of Michigan, where there is such a wide network for it, is very like important, and it also helps me get adjusted to the school more because I'm not only coming to University of Michigan, but I'm also coming to the state of Michigan. I've actually, this is my second time in the state of Michigan, and by having this sort of network of like friends, like really like even helped me decide to come to University of Michigan. You're in like a massive school, and this program will help you develop your friends, and not only will they be in like the exact same, like it's not just people who are in the exact same class as you, but they're from like different. They're similar because they're all in like civil engineering, but they're all from like different backgrounds of civil engineering, so it adds more diversity to your friend group as well.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for listening to our podcast conversation. For more information about CEE at Michigan, please visit our website at cee.umich.edu. You can also reach our YouTube channel and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn pages from our website.